Bryan Johnson, the healthiest man alive, was just diagnosed with autoimmune gastritis. Autoimmune gastritis is an autoimmune disease that basically means that the stomach is attacking itself. Now, how does someone with all the odds to be extremely healthy get an autoimmune condition? I mean, Bryan has the perfect diet, the perfect lifestyle, and he is a man. If you didn't know, 80% of the autoimmune diagnoses are in women. Autoimmune disease is largely a women's issue. So with everything that he had going on, you would think that he was going to be completely fine. I mean, he is the healthiest man alive. And there are some speculations in the wellness space as to why this happened. Figures in the somatic space like Dr. Gonzalez says that this is an emotional issue, this is a repressed anger issue. But instead of speculating about the root of Bryan's diagnosis, the purpose of this video today is to show you three key things. Number one, how come the perfect diet and the perfect lifestyle does not prevent you from getting an autoimmune condition? Number two, what the research and the practice agree on when it comes to emotion and illness. And number three, if you have an autoimmune condition or if you suspect of an autoimmune condition or just any chronic illness, you're gonna get a couple resources that are going to make your life a lot easier. I'm Mario Cabral and this is Gut Therapy, and without further ado, let's get started. Now, we know with this prime example that optimizations and tools and resources cannot really prevent you from getting an autoimmune condition. And there's also on the other hand, when you have all of these resources and optimization, if you already have an autoimmune disease and you're trying to manage it, that alone isn't likely the thing that is going to move the needle and get you all over to remission. And there is a reason for that. Because even when we do all these things, sometimes it isn't about the things that we do, but about the state our mind is in when we do those things. Let me explain. So there's this field called Psychoneuroimmunology. Psychoneuroimmunology is the field that studies the relationship between our mind and our brain and our immune system and endocrine system. Basically, is the field that studies the mind-body connection. And to give you an example of this mind-body connection, it is mainstream now to know that stress is bad, that stress causes inflammation, that stress is called the silent killer because it can really get you to a state of disease. That's the mind-body connection in a nutshell. This is not an infection or anything external. This is simply the result of our minds, of our thoughts, of our interpretation of certain events that creates the stress and thus the disease. And now we know through psychoneuroimmunology that other mental states also influence and affect our immune system. For example, we now know that depression suppresses the immune system. So when we are depressed, our immune system is not acting the way that it should. Another key example of how our emotions influence our body, specifically our immune system, is a study that I read recently where the researchers wanted to see the effects of guilt and shame in the body. So these researchers had the participants recall and write down memories of them when they did something wrong and they felt at fault. We know that feeling at fault creates a lot of guilt and a lot of shame. And what was found is that guilt and shame create inflammatory cytokines. Basically, guilt and shame create inflammation in our body. And here's when experts that say that autoimmune diseases have an emotional link really get it right, because there's no amount of gluten-free food and dairy-free food that can heal a body and a mind that feels shame. This is something that you gotta work through spiritual work, through therapy, and through many other different tools. And it typically takes a long time. Now, I want to go back to the statistic I said earlier about 80% of autoimmunity being in women versus 20% in men. You know, I learned this when I was doing my certificate as an autoimmune protocol coach. And while there isn't a consensus in the scientific community as to why this happens, it is my belief that this is also largely emotional. Just because women in general have been conditioned more to kind of brush off our boundaries and our needs and really put everyone else's needs in front and center most of the time. And so when I was doing the research to back this video, the research that talked about depression suppressing the immune system, it was explicitly said in the paper that the women that participated in this research project had more depressive symptoms and depressive signs than the men that were studied in the same project. And this is just one example. And I'm not the only one saying this. Dr. Gabor Mate, an expert in trauma, talks a lot about this issue and talks about how women are largely socialized to hold more than men generally, and therefore they tend to overlook their emotions and their boundaries. So there's this trend on TikTok that says something along the lines of either be a bitch or get an autoimmune disease. And what's behind it is like, if you continue to say yes when you want to say no, you will get an autoimmune disease because you're suppressing your emotions. And I do not believe that you need to be a bitch to not get an autoimmune disease. What this means is that you need to be okay with being perceived as one, to say no when you mean to say no, instead of suppressing all the emotions or just being overly available to people. That in of itself is going to create some freedom in your body because you're not trying to play nice. So maybe don't be a bitch, but if people think that you are because you're upholding your boundaries, so be it. I think we have all seen, maybe some of you are, the archetype of the eldest daughter. Eldest daughters typically since childhood know a little bit too much than what they should know when they're younger. They get brought up into adult topics very early on, and that creates some trauma, that creates secrecy, that creates a lot of issues internally. Eldest daughters typically take care of everyone, and they typically feel responsible for everyone in the family. So growing up an eldest daughter is like really the stereotypical type of woman who is prone to an autoimmune disease. Obviously, this varies case by case, but typically the women who are asked to hold more and to be more for other people are the ones that are more susceptible to getting an autoimmune disease based on this emotional framework that people like Gabor Mate talk about. Now, in the archetype of the woman that I just talked about, the woman that is prone to these autoimmune issues and chronic conditions, what is both the root and the consequence of what is happening in their body is nervous system dysregulation. Our nervous system is what perceives the world around us even before we can articulate it consciously. It basically tells us when something is dangerous and when it's not to be trusted. It keeps us alert in order to protect ourselves. And when our nervous system is dysregulated, simple things like your phone running out of battery, or you being stuck in traffic, or you having a difficult conversation with your partner or family member, they are felt as threats to our safety. And a threat to our safety is a threat to our life. So when our nervous system is dysregulated, for things that are actually not a threat, like your phone running out of battery or you being stuck in traffic, are not things that are going to kill you, but the body perceives it as such. So that over the course of many, many years, in a chronic way, is what can create a state of disease. So now the question is, how do ones regulate our nervous system so the body feels calm and at ease? And more importantly, so the things that you're doing, like the super healthy diet, the healthy lifestyle, the going to the gym, actually make a difference in our health. And I know that if you're watching this, you're a go-getter. And the one thing a go-getter does is do things. And I actually will advise you against adding any more to your plate. What I'm going to tell you to do in order to regulate your nervous system is no more breath work, it's no more somatic exercises. What I want you to do is to do nothing. Rest is the most productive thing that you can do, including being bored. Being bored without your phone and scrolling, being bored without a TV, just being bored. Like, remember when you were a child and you were like asking your mom about things to do and there's like, no, there's nothing to do. Like that feeling of being bored. We as adults, we don't get that anymore. And this is how our mind really rests. The second thing that you can do that is really not doing anything, quote unquote, or not doing anything productive is having fun. Go to an amusement park, go dancing, go have fun with your friends, like go to the movies, go to the beach and read a book, but a book that is fun, not a book on self-development. All of those things really regulate our nervous system and it makes us feel calm and safe. Basically, the common denominator on these activities is that you don't want to be productive. Having fun is productive in and of itself, and resting is productive in and of itself. But trying to optimize, just like Bryan Johnson would optimize his perfect 8 to 10 hours of sleep, that is not what really calms the mind. So trust me, the way you know if your restful activity is working in regulating your nervous system, just think of if you're not getting anything out of what you're doing, you are doing it right. Now, another thing that I wanted to suggest is this book. It's called The New Autoimmune Protocol, and I'm gonna leave an affiliate link below. And this book has incredible recipes, but if you have an autoimmune condition, it's a really great guide on autoimmunity and how to navigate this in a way that is sustainable, in a way that empowers you, and in a way that hopefully gets you into remission. So the New Autoimmune Protocol is a great tool. It is also really important that when you have an autoimmune condition to have a gluten-free diet, gluten-free, dairy-free at the very minimum, but definitely gluten-free. And my friends at Urban AIP is a great option if you do not have time to make nourishing meals. So this is not a sponsor, but just full disclosure, I'm gonna leave an affiliate link, and it's a company that is fantastic. They offer completely autoimmune protocol compliant meals, and they're also fully organic, and all of their packaging is plastic free and aluminum free. So they're an incredible company. It's by a fellow nutritional therapy practitioner and AAP coach, and this woman knows what it's like to have autoimmunity. So everything is meant for the women that want to get into remission. I'm gonna leave the affiliate link right below. Now, to close, it is very important to me that you get to understand why potentially Bryan Johnson, the healthiest man alive, the man that has everything optimized, that had the perfect supplements and the perfect diet, got an autoimmune disease, and that is the constant pursuit of optimization. To give you an example, two people can do the exact same breathwork routine, but one is doing it because they want to fully optimize, they want to improve their brain health, they have all these marks that they want to hit with this breathwork, and the other person just doing breathwork because it calms their mind. The energy behind those two things are going to be completely different. It's different to go out dancing and having the great time with your friends and to go and get dance lessons and wanting to be the best at the dance lessons, right? There is a completely different energy, even though the doing doesn't change. And that is what I want you to get out of this. It isn't about optimizing everything. It's about doing so with a regulated nervous system, and to know that not everything is to be tracked, not everything is to be perfect. How you feel in your body is so much more important, and your health outcomes. I'm Mario Cabral from Gut Therapy. I hope that this video was helpful, and if it was, please leave a comment, please like it. This is a new YouTube channel, so thank you so much for being here.